This conversation is brought to you by foodpowers.com. Because knowing which foods work against you should be the foundation for your grocery lists, as well as your supplement and skincare choices. My name is Nerissa Oden. Healthy foods made me sick for decades, but once I identified the culprits and stopped eating them, my everyday illnesses went away in days. Join me and others who share amazing stories of food powers. Hi, this is Nerissa Oden with foodpowers.com. Thank you for joining us today. And I have as a guest Heather Carter. Heather Carter is a Wimberleyite and a neighbor, and she has some profound paradigm shifts with food sensitivities, and she's here today to share her story with us. Welcome, Heather.
Thanks, Nerissa.
Now, just to let people know, you're a green sculpture artist, you're a mother and a wife, and you're living off the grid in Wimberley, Texas, which I think is awesome.
Thank you.
If people want to find out more about you, they can go to heathercarter.info and check out your sculpture works and learn more about you there. And then also you do a lot of blogging at greenguru.org. Yep. And one of your most, well-known websites is you're a founding member and president right now of a online farmers type market, and that's called bountifulsprout.com. And so I've been using Bountiful Sprout, me and Joe have, for a couple of years now, or a year and a half, something like that.
Yeah, at least.
And
we've been going now for at least 3 years, so we've got a good client base at this point.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys are looking at expanding in the Austin, Texas area.
Yes, we are. We already have another location in Fredericksburg, and then we open in Austin in the next 6 months.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so part of the reason why I'm sharing this, I obviously want to let everybody know you're a real person, and but also to kind of give them an idea of your healthy, very conscious, healthy background that you have, and that with this new food sensitivity test, you had you had a paradigm shift in your health. And
yes.
Can you? I don't remember why you got the food sensitivity test. Can you kind of fill us in on why you got it? Okay.
Well, this all started back in August. Actually, last July, right before August, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, and it's an autoimmune disorder that presents itself as like a hyperthyroidism. So I was losing weight. My heart rate was 120 all the time, even when I was sleeping. It kind of feels like you're having a panic attack all the time. And after a while, you start to get very sick. You lose weight. You feel like you just need to eat a whole meal right before you go to bed so that you can make it through the night because you're so hungry all the time. But it's not a good kind of hungry. It's like it's hard to explain. It's like a low blood sugar kind of hungry. Mm-hmm. So, I was going through that and seeing several different physicians. At the time, I started with one who is an endocrinologist in New Braunfels, and we went through the standard testing and found out that, yes, it was Graves' disease, and got all my numbers back and did several different tests, and the results said, well, when they came back, the doctor there said, well, you have a few options. You can either surgically remove your thyroid or part of it, or you can radiate your thyroid, which is basically swallowing a pill of radioactive iodine, and it kills your thyroid. And I didn't really like any of those options, so I kind of was shopping around for maybe some other doctor that could shed some more light on the problem, like right. As to why my body was attacking itself in the right. first place, and maybe not remove the organ that was in trouble, but try to save it by really fixing the problem instead of just kind of, it seemed like all of the solutions were, well, let's remove your thyroid. And
right.
that wasn't causing the problem. We don't know what's causing your problems, but let's just remove the thyroid. So, yeah.
And Heather, you're a relatively a young person.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing how old you are?
I am 38. And yes, I am too young to be, in my mind, removing parts of my body that I'm not sure need to be removed. And
I'm with you, sister.
Yeah, it seems like a necessary organ. It
right.
seems very important, and I was going to do whatever it took to at least try something else first. That would be my last-ditch effort would be some kind of surgery if I had to, after years of trying other things. So one of the first things I did was I found this doctor in Austin, and she's, her name's Dr. Amy Myers, and she specializes in chronic illnesses that people have, like any kind of, she's basically, they call it, it's escaping me. Well, I'll come back to that. I can't remember what
integrative medicine.
Yeah, integrative medicine or functional medicine.
Functional. Okay.
And basically, it looks at people that have a chronic problem and find out why that is. And her angle is that usually, almost 100% of the time, that someone has a chronic illness, either diabetes or something, it's from what they're eating. So this autoimmune disorder that I have, and this chronic, hyperthyroidism, I actually came down with hyperthyroidism 8 years ago, and it went into remission. And so we're thinking it could have been Graves' disease back then, but it went away for 8 years, and then it resurfaced. So this is also considered any kind of autoimmune disorder is considered a chronic disorder. So right away she says, well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this food sensitivity panel done, and we're going to find out what it is that you're allergic to that you're eating. And while we do that, while we're waiting for those results, I want you to start immediately on the elimination diet. So I can know physically how it makes me feel when I eat certain foods or get rid of certain foods. And I think that was the most profound change.
Okay, and so she put you on the food elimination diet, and can you explain for the listeners what that is?
Sure. The elimination diet consists of doing a basic, they say the first week you get rid of all sugars and all caffeine and all white flour. You do that for the first week. And then the second week you start into the elimination diet, which is continuing that, but also getting rid of dairy, gluten, soy, eggs, corn, soy, what else? Oh, nightshades, citrus. So there's like a whole list of things that you also eliminate from your diet. You do this for 2 full weeks. So, I mean, it's not like you have to do this for 3 months or 4 months, and that would be agonizing. But also yeast, you need to get rid of yeast. But so I eliminated all of those things. So I took 2 or 3 weeks to do this process, and then after those 2 weeks, you pick one item at a time on this list. The first one being gluten, and you introduce that one item back over a 3-day period. So the first day of the 3 days, you actually introduce the thing back. You have it 3 times a day: morning, lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You have a serving of gluten. And it can't be just a piece of bread, because bread also has eggs and yeast in it, most likely. So you've got to choose a glutinous substance, like you bread a pork chop in some wheat flour, or do something
pasta.
Pasta. Have a big bowl of pasta with no dairy, because you're not introducing dairy, but just olive oil and salt on your pasta. And that's what I did. I chose very simple parts of gluten and add them back, and then you wait the next 2 days to see if there's any reaction, because most food reactions happen within 72 hours. Some of them don't happen immediately, and I guess that's what I was so astounded by, was it's not just a histamine reaction you have from food. You have all of these other systematic reactions all over your body, like back pain.
Well, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah,
so by the end of the second week, and before you introduced the gluten, how are you feeling? How are you feeling that was different than before you did the food elimination diet?
Well, before I started the elimination diet, I was feeling better because I had been on my thyroid medicine for a while. So the adjustment period had already happened, where they had kind of stabilized me through medication. So I was on medication.
Okay.
But I was continuing to have which I didn't really even notice at the time until it was gone. That's another issue that's really strange about the food elimination diet. I didn't even realize how bad I felt until I eliminated everything, and I felt so good.
And so at the end of
in hindsight, hindsight, yes, I was still having back pain. I was having swelling in my joints. I wasn't sleeping well. I kind of felt old.
Yeah, this was before the food elimination diet, right?
Right, before the elimination diet, before I started anything.
And you didn't realize really that was, you just thought that was part of being old. And this story sounds so familiar to me. You just thought you were old.
Every day. Yeah, I'm tired every day at 2 o'clock. I'm just I can barely keep my eyes open, so I feel like I need caffeine, or I feel like I need some chocolate or some sugar.
Yeah.
And those patterns in my day were just part of my life, and they had been there for years. I just kind of assumed that was the way it was supposed to be, or that was just me, you know. Then eliminating those things. I mean, it was pretty hardcore the first 3 days. I didn't feel too great. I kind of felt like I was detoxing or something, and I guess that's what I was doing. I was detoxing. I was probably having a little yeast die off, too, because I wasn't feeding my body any sugar or caffeine, and I was tired and maybe withdrawing on having my tea every day. But after 2 weeks, even just being on the elimination diet for 1 week and had given up sugar and caffeine the week before that, I felt like I was 20. I felt like I remember feeling in college.
Yeah.
Bounding out of bed in the morning, sleeping so hard at night that you don't remember any dreams. You just remember hitting the pillow, going to sleep. And I haven't slept that good since I was 20. You know what I mean? I don't remember sleeping that well since college, you know?
Yeah, so my story is similar to yours, because that's, it took me 6 weeks to get there before I realized, oh my God, I left early this morning. I've been in stressful situations and physically stressful situations, and now it's like 9 o'clock at night, and I came home and I start doing laundry and dishes, and I stopped and went, I haven't been like this since I was 20,
Right.
Where you could work on, I literally worked for 3 days straight, on films without sleep. That's what I did in my 20s.
Right.
And after 6 weeks for me of being on the food, not on the diet, but following the food sensitivity test, I felt like I was in my 20s. So I know exactly what you're saying.
Right.
Now,
and you didn't realize how bad you felt until you felt good,
Exactly. And, and so kind of give me a list of things that went away.
Okay, well, the first thing I noticed that went away was this chronic back pain I used to have right below my shoulder blades, sort of in the middle of my spine there, below my shoulder blades, kind of right behind, I guess, your solar plexus, like right behind your heart, basically. Back there, I would have, right behind my stomach, I would have this chronic pain. My husband's always been rubbing my back. I always thought it was I've had 2 children, from carrying my children or leaning over a desk, sort of that curvature in your back that you're always kind of bending over. And I thought, well, I must have bent over too weird to for a long time washing dishes or picking up the kids. And every day I have this pain. And it got to be such a part of my life that I would just sort of ignore it. Mm-hmm. It was some days it was worse than others, but it was always there, That was one of the very first things to go away, which was mind-boggling, because I thought, how could this be related to food? I thought it was a structural, muscular problem.
Right, right.
The second thing that was so profound to go away was I started this diet when I was in the middle of the most severe allergy season for me, which is ragweed. Ragweed happens in October, November, and that's kind of right at the time. November 1st is when I started the elimination diet, and so I was on a prescription antihistamine because all the regular stuff doesn't even cut it when I have that severe of a problem. Within 8 hours, of eliminating all the gluten and dairy and everything, my symptoms went away so profoundly that I stopped taking the prescription antihistamine. And that was amazing because she had told me, she said, most allergies, like just, what people consider from pollen and all these other things, are actually made much more severe by what people are eating.
Mm-hmm.
If they were to eliminate the things they're allergic to, then they could handle what's in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of looked at her like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Because I just didn't believe it. I was like, no, ragweed has affected me so badly for so many years. I thought she just doesn't know what she's talking about that.
I know it is. It's a total paradigm shift. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, and they're so right. She was so right about that. So that was another really profound thing to go away. I had no idea how swollen my fingers and my joints were. Like how my joints were always popping. Like my every time I get out of bed, I'd be like snap, crackle, pop everywhere. That went away. That joint pain, not being able to get my rings off my fingers every morning. That was just a normal thing, I thought. I thought I woke up swollen every morning. I had no idea that was from what I ate.